At 9:30 in the morning on August 1st, 2012, the New York Stock Exchange opened as usual. 45 minutes later, one of America's biggest trading firms was fighting for its life. Knight Capital had sent more than 4 million orders into the market while trying to fill only 212 customer orders. Its systems traded more than 397 million shares and accumulated several $billion in positions the company never wanted. Knight's first public estimate was a pre-tax loss of about $440 million. That is almost $10 million for every minute the market was open. This was not a cyber attack, a rogue trader, or a prediction model making one bad bet. It began with a software deployment. One server did not receive the new code. Old code that should have been dead came back to life. Warnings appeared before the opening bell, but nobody treated them as the emergency they were. The incident is often reduced to a simple story. One engineer forgot one server. The truth is more useful and more disturbing. A single mistake became catastrophic only because multiple defenses were missing at the same time. Knight Capital was a major market maker. Its systems stood between buyers and sellers, processing enormous volumes at computer speed. To a customer, an order might look simple: buy a certain number of shares. Inside Knight, an automated router broke that request into smaller orders and sent them to trading venues. Speed mattered. Reliability mattered even more, because a router can repeat an error thousands of times before a person understands what is happening. In 2012, the New York Stock Exchange was launching a new retail liquidity program. Knight prepared its router to participate and added new code. The feature used a software flag that had previously activated an old function named PowerPeg. That function was no longer supposed to operate. Years earlier, part of its code had been moved, leaving the function defective, yet the obsolete code remained in the production system. This created a hidden trap, a reused flag, connected to dormant code, waiting for the right deployment mistake. Knight's router ran on 8 servers. According to the Securities and Exchange Commission, the new software was manually deployed. A technician copied it to 7 servers, but did not copy it to the 8th. There was no second technician formally reviewing the work, and no automated process that stopped the release when the versions did not match. Knight also had no written procedure requiring someone to verify that every server was running the same code before trading began. On the updated servers, the new flag meant the new retail program. On the untouched server, the same flag still pointed to the defective PowerPeg function. The cluster looked like one system, but it now had 2 different meanings for the same instruction. This is why the phrase, "one bad server," can be misleading. Servers fail. People miss steps. A safe deployment assumes that will happen and checks the actual state of every machine. Here, the company depended on a manual action being perfect, then failed to verify the result. Before the market opened, Knight's systems began receiving eligible orders. On the 7 updated servers, they were handled by the new logic. When one reached the 8th server, the flag awakened PowerPeg. The defective function sent child orders into the market, but failed to recognize correctly when those orders had been filled. It kept trying. The behavior was brutally simple. Repeatedly buy at the offer and sell at the bid. Buy high, sell low, then do it again at machine speed. In the first 45 minutes, the router sent more than 4 million orders. Those orders produced more than 397 million shares of trading across 154 stocks. Knight acquired unwanted positions worth several $billion. The code was not intelligent, and it did not need to be. It had direct market access, enormous speed, and no effective limit that compared the orders leaving the router with the small number of customer orders entering it. Automation multiplied one broken assumption into a financial avalanche. The most painful detail arrived before the opening bell. An internal system generated 97 automated emails that referenced the router and identified an error. The emails were not designed as formal system alerts, and Knight did not act on them that morning. That distinction matters, but it does not make the warnings meaningless. They were evidence that the deployment had changed the system in an unexpected way. After trading began, unusual price movements appeared in dozens of stocks. Knight personnel tried to diagnose the problem, But their first response made the situation worse. They removed the new code from the servers where it had been installed. That action did not remove the old PowerPeg code from the untouched server. Instead, it increased the number of servers capable of triggering the defective function. The company did not have sufficiently clear incident procedures or a rapid, automated kill switch that could stop the router. In a slow system, confusion costs time. In a high-speed market system, confusion becomes orders, positions, and losses. Knight eventually stopped the activity and traded out of the unwanted positions. On August 2nd, the company announced a realized pre-tax loss of approximately $440 million. Later regulatory findings described a loss of more than $460 million. The hit severely damaged Knight's capital base. Within days, outside investors provided $400 million in emergency financing, heavily diluting existing shareholders. Later that year, Knight agreed to merge with GetCo. The SEC charged Knight Capital Americas with violating the market access rule and imposed a $12 million penalty. The regulator did not describe a single freak accident. It identified inadequate deployment and testing controls, weak financial risk controls, poor incident procedures, and an insufficient review of the company's safeguards. The lesson is not that software should never fail. The lesson is that production systems controlling real money must be designed so that one failure cannot travel unchecked from a keyboard to the market. Knight's collapse can be understood as a chain of ordinary weaknesses. Obsolete code stayed in production. A software flag was reused. Deployment was manual. One server was missed. Nobody independently verified the release. Automated emails were not treated as actionable alerts. Exposure limits did not stop the unwanted positions. The response plan was unclear, and there was no effective kill switch at the point where it mattered. Break any one of those links, and the outcome might have been smaller. Break several, and the incident might never have escaped the company. Modern teams use automated deployments, version checks, staged rollouts, canary releases, real-time exposure limits, and tested emergency shutdowns for exactly this reason. But tools alone are not enough. A warning must reach someone with authority, and that person must know what action to take. Knight Capital did not lose $440 million because computers are unpredictable. It lost the money because a predictable human mistake met a system that was not prepared to contain it. That is the entry in today's error ledger. One missed server, many missing defenses, and 45 minutes that changed a company forever.